Rick and Jane McKinney have lived an extraordinary life of ministry. For over 50 years, they have ministered side by side, whether planting and pastoring churches, traveling the world to perform concerts, building a house in Mexico, traveling from village to village in India, or walking across America. They have answered God's call to share Jesus with others. Rick and Jane have authored And So They Walked, the memoir of their walk across America to share their faith and pray for the nation. And They Walked Where, a children's book about their walk, their newest book that the whole world knows, will be released on October 16, 2023. They live in southern Kentucky and continue to follow God's call one step at a time. And on today's episode of Auto Interview, it's my utmost pleasure and joy to have on the show today Rick McKinney. How are you doing, Rick?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. This is the Lord's Day in America, and just got back from church, and I had
Oh,
a wonderful time.
yeah, it's so lovely actually to have you on the show today. I'm excited. So, Rick, could you tell us about your book, And So We Walked? I want to say that's such an amazing title for a book. And So We Walked, the inspirational story of a couple's walk across America. How did this book come about? What inspired you to write And So We Walked?
Well, we didn't want the story to get lost. My wife and I actually did walk from Los Angeles, California to Washington, D.C., 2,770 miles. We walked
Wow.
every step of the way, all the way across America together. And we did it in order to share our faith with people, talk to people about Jesus, and also to pray for our nation. And we didn't want that story to get lost. We knew how that story had transformed our lives, and we felt like if we could get it in the hands of other people, it would affect their lives too. And that actually has turned out to be the case. Many, many people are writing us and saying, our life has been affected by reading this book.
I love the sound of that. It sounds very intriguing to me. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, for readers who haven't read the book yet, and of course, without giving much information away, could we have a sneak of what we'd expect picking up the book?
Sure. My wife is the one who journaled all the way across America. She wrote down
Wow.
the name of every person we met and every story that went with those people.
Hmm.
And so when we got done with the walk, I began to take that information and make it into story form. And I'd put it away for a while, then I'd get it back out and work on it. It actually took 17 years for us to get the book
Wow.
where we felt like it was ready. And, I think it was God's timing because 17 years ago, uh, we didn't know about podcasting and we didn't know about worldwide internet radio. And this has made it possible for us to get the message out about this book and about the walk all around the world. This is my third podcast in Nigeria. I've
Wow.
been in England three times, Australia, New Zealand, and all over the United States. And so people are finding out the book and reading. And we just have released the children's version. And the other day we had a chance to go to the local elementary school and read the book for the children. And one of the little first graders came up and said, "You have inspired me so much today to tell my friends about Jesus." And that's
Hmm.
what we're after. You don't get rich writing a book like this, but what happens is the Lord takes the message and spreads it and causes people to get excited about God, and that's what we really wanted to happen.
Wow, that's very amazing to know. And I love the fact that you're trying to share the message and story and message about Jesus. That's such an interesting theme. I love the sound of that. Now, would you also love to tell us a bit about your upcoming book? I see you have one coming up October till the whole world knows. Would you love to talk about that too?
Sure. One of the things that I think is very difficult for people of different personality types is to actually share their faith with other people. And so
Mm.
this is a book. It's really a manual, a how-to book. Uh, in its the subtitle is "A Guide to Sharing Jesus for the Introvert, Extrovert, and Jesus Freak." So,
Mm,
sometimes most people would never guess it, but I'm a profound introvert. But God has inspired me to tell people and to talk to people about Jesus. And so the first part of the book is some things that you can do to share Jesus without speaking a word. For instance, you can make a big cardboard sign that says, "Smile, God loves you," or "Jesus is praying for you," and go out
mm,
on the highway and hold it up for people to see. And you don't have to speak, but it gets the message across. And then there are ways to share if you don't mind talking to people, and actually even ways to share if you don't mind standing on the street corner and preaching. So
mm.
it's full of all different kinds of methods that we can use to tell folks about God and to share the message of Christ. And they're fun ways, they're exciting ways, and they're very effective as well.
Yeah, that's such an interesting one. I love the sound of your book, and thank you so much for giving this short illustration about it. Really made for an interesting read. Now, I'm also curious to know if you experienced any challenges in the process of writing your both books. If there is any, could you share what total challenge it is and how you ultimately overcame it?
Here's what I think. I believe with all my heart that our best life is lived when we live in obedience to God. And
Absolutely.
I have a saying that my answer to God is always yes before he asks the question.
Hmm.
I think many times in our life, we treat God like we do our friends. Our friend comes into the room and says, "Will you do me a favor?" And our first response is, "Well, what's the favor?" Because we want to know
If you're
if we
capable.
want to do it or not.
Hmm.
And I think sometimes we do that with God. I think sometimes God says, "I have something for you to do," and we say, "Well, what is that?" And so my wife and I decided 50 years ago that we would always say yes, no matter what the question was. And so when God said walk across America, the answer was yes. When God said a few years ago to go to India and preach in the little villages, we said yes. And so
Wow.
whatever God has asked us, we've said yes. And living in that kind of obedience brings a blessing that nothing else brings. As a matter of fact, I believe that God will ask people to do things who he knows will say yes, that he won't ask anybody else to do. And we have lived an extraordinary life of seeing God meet our needs and take care of us. And this book is just a challenge in every area of your life. You don't have to walk across America. Sometimes it's just walking across the street. Sometimes it's just talking to the neighbor across the back fence. Sometimes it's talking to the person at the store when you're buying food or when you're
Yeah.
buying gasoline for your car. And so, no matter what it is that he asks you to do, that's what you should say yes to, and that will give you your best life. So I think that's the underlying message of the book, and I think that's what people will get from it. So anybody who's struggling with God's will or being obedient to God's will, I think will be blessed by reading this book.
Wow. I love your description of this, and I love your answers to this question. The topic of you saying yes to God reminds me of a particular song titled "I Say Yes." I say yes,
Yes,
Lord. I
yes,
don't know if I
that's
would
right.
love to sing it, but anyway.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And apart from "And So We Walked" and "Till the Whole World Knows," do you have any other works you've altered or maybe currently working on?
Yes, we just finished the children's book called They Walked Where, and that's fully illustrated. It was a wonderful experience, by the way.
Hmm.
We had the illustrator, we hired an illustrator who happened to live in India, and he was a Muslim. And so
Wow.
I told my wife, I said, well, I don't know if he'll want to work on this book about Jesus or not, but I'm going to ask him. And so he said yes. So every time he worked on it, he had to read the story of Jesus over and over and over again, and it was
Wow.
awesome. So that's just come out. I'm also working on two other books. I'm working on a book about saying yes to God. That one's a ways off. And then I have one that will come out next year. It's the story of my father's life. My father was a pastor for 55 years, and he lived also a wonderful life of ministry,
Wow.
went all different kinds of places, loved the unlovable, and helped folks who nobody else would help. And he was an extraordinary man. I learned everything I learned about ministry from him. And
Wow.
his name was JC, and I always think that's neat. His parents weren't Christians when he was born. As a matter of
Wow.
fact, he was born without the knowledge of Jesus. He was 14 years old before he gave his life to Christ.
Mm.
You'll find this interesting, perhaps. He was out in back of his house chopping wood one day. My dad was born in the middle of the Great Depression, and he was
Wow.
a boy, and he noticed that the people across the street who happened to be black always got in their truck and went somewhere on Sunday morning. Of course, he didn't understand where they were going. And one Sunday, the old man asked my dad if he'd like to go with him to church. My dad didn't know what church was, but he ran in
Wow.
and asked his mother, and he jumped in the back of that pickup truck with all those
So,
black children, and they went off to church. That's where my dad found out about Jesus. And
wow.
he kept going and kept going and kept going until he accepted Christ as his Savior. So from there, his life is just an extraordinary life. And so I'm writing a
Wow.
book about that. That'll be out sometime next year. And I have a couple others in my head that haven't hit the paper yet, but they're on the way. They're on the way.
I love the sound of that. And it's so fun to know more about your father and how I came to know about Jesus. That sounds very intriguing. I think that book will really make for an interesting read. I look forward to that. That really sounds great.
Let you know when it comes out.
Yeah, great. Now, could you tell us what publishing is like for a published author like yourself? Are there any challenges you've encountered ever since you got published?
Lots of challenges. The easiest part was writing the book, to be honest.
Yeah.
The hardest part is trying to figure out how to get people to know the book is written. And so I've done about 30 podcasts at this point, and radio
Wow.
interviews, newspaper interviews. That has helped tremendously. We also do speaking in churches to share with people about the walk and about how it transformed our lives and about the book itself. And then we're doing some marketing online. But the marketing of the book is really the hard work. Um,
Mm.
we're learning a lot as we go. This book, And So We Walked, was the number one bestseller two different times
Wow.
since it's been out since May. I have a little small book that's 25 pages about sharing Jesus. It just hit the top 10 in three categories,
Wow.
and it's called Sharing Jesus. And then the children's book was the number one new release for 2 weeks running.
Wow.
So we're trying very hard. Again, the point here is not to make money, but the point is to get these stories out so
Mm.
people's lives can be changed by them. And we both have other jobs, and so we work to support ourselves. And so the book is just a way of ministry for us. And if it never makes any money, that'll be fine with us, because God will always take care of us. I actually teach at the university about 25 miles from here. I teach 4 subjects each semester. My wife still teaches high school. I just turned 68 years old yesterday. My wife's 69, and
Oh,
we still work every day. And
wow.
I like what George Whitefield said, a great preacher of the American First Awakening. He
Mm.
said, "I'd rather wear out than rust out," and
Mm.
that's my motto. I just
Oh,
I can't imagine ever quitting telling people about Jesus. So
wow.
that's what I'll do for the rest of my life.
Wow. This so amazing. I love your answers to this question. And it's quite motivating, I would say.
As I said, I learned most of what I learned in life from my father.
Wow.
He was dedicated. He was persistent. He finally died when he was 78 years old with a
Oh,
brain tumor. But my father preached until the last day he could possibly preach. And then
wow.
when we had to put him in a care facility, he told people about Jesus there until the day he died. And
Mm.
that's the only way I know to live, because that's how I saw my father live, and I think that's the way that pleases God. So that's
Wow.
that's how we live our lives.
Wow. That's so
We've been all over the
great.
world, by the way. We've been all over the world. We've been to China twice, 3 times. We've been to
Wow.
Tibet. We've been to India, Mexico twice. in all 48 states of the United States. The only place we haven't been is Alaska and Hawaii.
Wow.
My wife keeps wanting to go to Hawaii, and I keep saying, I'm not sure that's God calling us to Hawaii. I think that's you.
That's so fun. That's so lovely to know. Thank you so much for sharing these amazing stories. They sound very intriguing to me. I do love it. I love it so much.
Good.
Now, I
Good.
also love to ask you, Rick, is there anything that you would love to share with the viewers about your books that we did not mention in this interview and you'd love the viewers to know?
Um, well, I just I'd like to say that the book "And So We Walked" is also just now available in audiobook, so they can listen to it. I have found that lots of folks are writing me and saying, "We read the book, but the audiobook is so much better." I
Mm,
narrated it, so it's me telling
wow.
the story in my own voice, and I think that's very, very interesting. And it's available if you get the Kindle version, you can get the audiobook for about half price. I didn't do that. Amazon does that, but it's a new thing they call Whisper Sync, and you
Mm,
could go back and forth between reading and listening, and it will keep your place. So you're in the car listening, you come inside and you want to read, it's right where you left off in the car. It's an
wow.
ingenious thing, and they offer it to some authors. And fortunately, I was picked to be a part of that program. So
Wow.
uh, it's available. I would love for people to contact us. I love it. We love to correspond with people. We love to talk to people. They can go to our website and we will email them back. There's lots of pictures there of our trips around the world. I
Mm,
write a blog every couple of weeks that's there about different subjects. So we would love to hear from some of your listeners and connect with them and share stories. And they can just go to our website. It's very easy. It's just rickandjanemckinney.com, rickandjanemckinney.com, and they can contact us right through the website.
yeah, that's great. And I left a link in the description part of this interview to the website where interested viewers can contact Rick directly. Now, I also love to ask you, as a published author, what sort of advice do you have for other writers who are still struggling with publishing a book? What would you advise people in this category?
Interestingly enough, when we read our children's book a couple of days ago at the school, one of the children asked me about what I would advise them to do if they wanted to be an author. And the
Wow.
advice is the same, whether you're an adult or a child. First of all, write about something you're passionate about because
Mm,
it will show in your writing. If you're not passionate about it, the book probably won't sell because people will be able to tell by reading it that
mm,
you're just writing. You're not breathing the book. You're not living the book. So write
mm,
about something you're passionate about and write a little bit every day, even if it's just a sentence or two. I find that one of the most difficult things as a person who's busy like I am is to discipline myself to write every day. But if you write something every day, I either write a blog or a chapter in a book or some sort of I'm on a couple of different magazines, online magazines, and so
mm,
I write something every day. That keeps me thinking all the time. It keeps the kind of the juices flowing. It keeps me creative. I think it keeps me younger, actually, and it's a wonderful exercise, mental exercise, and
mm.
spiritual exercise
Yeah.
for us to write every day. So write about something you're passionate about. Write about something every day. And then here's what I tell people. I think you should have a special book, a notebook, and a special pencil or pen that you write with. That you
Wow.
don't do anything else but write with that pen and write in that notebook or a special place on your computer, a special file if you write online on
Mm,
your computer. But make it special because it is special. It's not. It's coming out of your heart, hopefully, and because it's
absolutely.
coming out of your heart, it's
Yeah.
special and it deserves a special place and a special time
Yeah.
and a special priority in your life. So that's what I advise people who want to be authors. Expect a lot of hard work, but it's worth it. Believe me, when somebody comes up to you and says, this book changed my life, it'll be worth all the work that you did.
Yeah. I love your advice, and I love the fact that you mentioned working on what you're passionate about, writing on what you're passionate about, because it will show in your writing. Thank you so much for your advice, and I'm hopeful that viewers, including myself, would love to utilize it. Now, Rick, in case we have some viewers who are watching this interview, I would love to get a copy of your books. On what platform are they available on for purchase?
Uh, Amazon is where our books are. You can also get them through our website, but that'll just direct you to Amazon. So Amazon, you can just put our name in, Rick and Jane McKinney, or the name of the book, and it'll come up. And we have an author page there, so it'll show all of our books and a little biography about us and some information. So we'd love for people to go to Amazon and get the books.
That's great. And I left a link in the description part of this interview where interested viewers can get a copy of Rick McKinney's books directly on Amazon. So thank you so much, Rick, for accepting the invitation to be featured on P English Literature. It's awesome having this conversation with you.
It's been great to be here, Peter. I thank you so much for inviting me to be on.
Yeah, it's my joy as well.